Hey there, Wargamers, Justin the Painter here, and you guys are tuning in for episode 3 of Painting Mephiston. I'd like to thank you guys for returning for part 3 of the Painting Mephiston tutorial series, and hopefully it's been easy enough to follow thus far. If you have any suggestions, critiques, thoughts, ideas, or anything at all, feel free to sign up in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you have to say, and I'm committed to trying to continue to push the envelope and create better content for you guys, and these tutorials are very important and special to me, so I really hope that you guys are able to follow them. If there's something I can do to improve, I really want to do that. So with that being said, let's go ahead and rotate over cameras here, and I'll show you guys what we're going to get into today as we work on the next step for Mephiston. Alright, so our focus today on Mephiston is going to be the opposite of working on the red robes. We're actually going to be flipping him over and trying to address the black portions of his cape here that we did not address in part 1 or part 2. Now, going into this, we will be using a couple of paints today. First and foremost, we're going to be using some black from Vallejo, and that's because there's a spot right here where we did not get his robes fully blacked out. So we're going to go ahead and address that. We're also going to be using Dawnstone Gray, so we can add some extra highlights and depth to his robes here. And we've got a little bit of that transition of gray from the airbrush, but I want to kind of push the highlights here by hand on the top areas of the folds. So we're going to come in with that. And finally, we're going to end on Administratum Gray with a much more crisp highlight on the edges and really push the highlights here on his robes. We're probably going to be using a little bit of glaze medium as well, specifically with the Dawnstone here, because we want to get that highlight and that transition, but we don't want to be overly in your face with that color, so we'll be using that a little bit as well. And depending on how things go, we may, if we just blaze through all these details, we may get into some extra work today, but if we don't, in our upcoming videos, we'll be beginning to tackle Mephiston's face. So we'll go ahead and get some edge highlights and stuff on that, and then work on his hair and maybe try a glow effect on his eyes. I'm not sure. I achieved a similar effect to what I would like to do on Mephiston on this Imperial Fist that I worked on recently on stream, and I managed to get a really cool glowing effect on his helmet lenses there, and I think something like that on Mephiston's face for glowing eyes might be really cool. Instead of using this kind of teal green, maybe using blue. That might look really, really cool. So we'll see what I decide to come up with as we transition into that. If we don't get to him during part 3 here, this will be in a future episode as we continue to push forward and try and complete old Mephiston here. Now the first thing we're going to do here is we're going to come in with this black paint that we've mixed up. We're going to target the robes here right under the piping on his left side of his chest, right side of the screen here. Just kind of get that blacked out so that his robes make sense and match up. Try and stay away from hitting any of the red parts here that you want to remain red, but if we hit the piping here that's going to be painted silver in a future step, that's okay. That's alright if that's black. Just make sure you're not hitting any of the red robes or red armor plates that you want to keep red in the end. This is pretty straightforward. Just blocking in a color. Try and get that on there smooth. Make sure there's no brush strokes. You can do this part for sure. If you made it this far in the video, I'm quite confident you can tackle the real easy part of blocking in a color. I almost said baking in a color. You're gonna bake in a color on old Mephiston here. If only it was that easy. We're just gonna bake some color in on these minis and get them going. And we're gonna go ahead and rotate here onto the back, and just for a little bit consistency's sake, put a little bit of black right on the side here, right up under his arm. These areas right here aren't going to be quite as visible once we come in with the backpack, so we aren't going to have to worry about them too much, but we're still going to tackle those. And we're going to come in here and also tidy up just a little bit on the right side of his chest. It's not quite as crisp of a black transition as I wanted, so just come in here and hit that area right there. Not a big deal, just fixing some colors. There we go. Now we can come in with our Dawnstone Gray and start tackling some of the edges here on the folds of his robe so we can get some highlights built in. And again, I did thin this down with a little bit of water and Vallejo Glaze Medium. So let's go ahead and start here at the bottom. A little bit of paint here. Start tackling the top of the fold where the gray is showing through. You want to leave some of that, so we're kind of applying this like an edge highlight. You're not trying to get a huge amount of stuff here, just trying to cover some of that up. I'm going to put a little extra one right through here. I like to give the illusion of extra ripples and folds. I think that's really cool. Okay. Let's come in and do the same over here. A little extra right up here. Now that I've got this in, I'm going to clean out our brush. We're going to come in and feather out the edge here. Kind of like we did previously with our reds that we built up. And I've nicked a little area here that's not quite as smooth as I want right in here, so we'll come back in with a little bit of that gray paint. Build that back up. It's the beauty of working with the glaze stuff, is you can continue to add multiple layers and build up those colors. So again, here, just coming in, trying to feather out that edge. I want a little bit more right here. Got a little bit too tight with that feather. That's okay. You can spend as much time or as little time working this color in as you want. Just don't forget to be having fun. Make sure this is something you're enjoying. And if you're not, reassess and figure out if you're doing too much work or not enough. Painting model should be enjoyable, should not be a chore. So remember that. Coming here, we're also going to mirror what we did on this bottom kind of fold and put an extra little line here. Just exaggerate a little bit. Looks cool. Just come right next to it. Feather out the other gray that's down. One extra little application over this spot here. Very nice, very nice. I'm pretty pleased with this. Now come over and continue doing the same effect on the other folds as well. I've gone ahead and finished up applying the Dawnstone Gray here to his cape, and I've done the same to the folds on this side as well. Now working a little bit in glazes and wet blending to get this hero to be a little bit more smooth, but kind of in essence what we're doing here, just applying an application, feathering it out with the paintbrush, and applying the application again and feathering until I got a desired result. Now the next thing we're going to do is to come in with our Dawnstone Gray and actually hit some edges of the robe for more of an edge highlight. So instead of blending, we're going to be using the side of our brush here just to hit the sides of the robe like that, so that we're getting that crisp gray highlight right on the edge. Now I find that when you're applying edge highlights, when you can, always use the side of your brush. You're going to get a much crisper application than you will by using the tip, or at least an easier application, I should say. Not necessarily more crisp, but easier. There's going to be sometimes when you want to apply an edge highlight or a wrinkle or a fold or something on a model, and you're going to have to use the tip, but when possible, again, just use the side of the brush as best you can. Now we're going to continue to apply the same edge highlight to the edges of the backs of his cloak here, and continue to push those ripples and those folds. If you mess up a little bit, don't be afraid to try and feather it off as best as possible, and come in and fix up any areas that you might have messed up with a little bit of black, if necessary. This part should be one of the easier things that we're doing when we're working on the robe here, because we're not actually trying to blend anything, just trying to get that nice little bit of a highlight on the edge of his cloak. We're going to flip it around. We're going to do the same thing on the underside, just to make sure we get all those edges in a variety of angles look good. Now right here, it's going to be a little hard to use the side, so I'm going to try and use the tip and just kind of draw in a little bit of a fade. Right here, catch the side of our paintbrush. And there we go. And you just go ahead and follow the edge of his robe here, finish out those edge highlights, and then we can move on to the next step. Should be pretty straightforward. As you're working on this though, if there's any areas you think would warrant a little bit of a scratch or an extra little fold, feel free to put a little line there. So like right here, just gonna very gently put a little little line. That looks kind of cool. Gives the illusion that there's more of a ripple there, or more of a kind of threaded effect. We'll put a little bit right here. Just like that. So it starts to really help push the idea that this is a threaded robe, threaded cloak, instead of just a black and gray kind of highlighted or transitioned robe. Okay, I'll come in here, a little bit right here. We already had one from, or already had one down rather that I had been applying, or had applied previously, I should say. One of these days I'll be doing a tutorial and I'll use the right words, right? It'll happen. I have faith. All right, and I'm pretty pleased with the kind of blend or transition in gray we've got right there. But you'll notice that some of these edge highlights aren't quite as crisp as we might like on the undersides of his robe. So we can come in with a little bit of black and try and touch those up if you want. Leave some of that gray showing through, but we're going to just kind of fill in the centers here where the gray might have got a little bit out of control, and just tidy that up a little bit. You don't have to go crazy on this part, but if there's an area that for you came out not quite as crisp as you want because the gray bled over, just come in, a little bit of black, touch that up, and you'll be just fine. With the gray now applied to our folds, the edge highlights done at the bottom, and the black touched up, it's time to come in for our final highlight here. We're going to be using our Administratum gray. Now I've thinned this down, and the point of this one's to come in and just add a little bit of an accent to the top edge of all of the highlights and all the folds that we've been enhancing previously. So come in here and kind of trace the center of this one. You want this to be the kind of apex of the folds. You want this to be the bright area, the extreme edge highlight, so to speak. This is going to contrast very much so against the black. It's going to blend pretty well with the other gray because it's just a lighter gray, but it's going to be a very it's going to contrast very well against the black. So you want to make sure that you've got that gray there to kind of offset that and really help this push the efficacy or the strength of that highlight that we're applying there. And the same thing with our little mini folds here, our little scratches. We're just adding a little bit as it comes up to the edge right there. So we're going to trace all these. Remember, trying to hit the spots where the light would be the most intense, and therefore the fold would ideally be the most intense. So have some fun with this and really enjoy as the model comes together. Again, if you feel that there's a spot where the gray's not quite what you want, or you've bled a little bit, just come in with a little bit of that black and feather it down right next to it just to tidy up your transitions. No big deal. No big deal. As Bob Ross would say, we don't make mistakes, we have happy little accidents. So again, just trying to get a little bit more up at the top. There we go. Get a nice one right here. There we go. And then this fold right here is going to kind of hit where the light might hit right there in the kind of recess, catching that. Nice fold. Come up here to the top. And this one, try and be tight with this one. And then get a little second one right there. Because I feel like that's a little too gray, I'm going to come in with a little bit of that black. Tidy up in the middle so we get a little bit of a separation between the folds there. There we go. Now, as we come into this kind of large fold right here that's a bit more prominent, drawing the eye, we're going to thin this down and we're going to try and glaze a little bit into the center of this. Be a little bit more subtle than some of the other edge highlights we applied. Like I said before, apply this in multiple layers until you are content. But I'm going to come in and feather out the edge a little bit. And I will likely come back and apply a little bit more when this is dry. As we move on though, we're going to also be kind of edge highlighting. So I have a brush here. Because I've got this nice and thin, we're just kind of feathering that out. Feathering that out. Hitting the high spots where the light is going to be really, really bright. We're going to have the apex of the folds and really bring these to life. As we come to the back here, just making sure we got a nice crisp line right here. I was noticing it wasn't quite as crisp as I wanted from the top side view from the side. Down here, looking forward, like this direction looked good from here. It didn't quite show. So we're gonna come up here, follow some of these little line folds we made. So a little extra emphasis to it, a little pizzazz, a little pop. Make the folds really shine. Now here we've got another large fold, so we grabbed a little bit more of this Administratum Gray. I got the thin down mix I was working with. I'm just going to follow the top edge here. There you go. And with our cleaned out brush, feather down the side of it right here. Just kind of blend it down. There you go. And I want that to be a little bit more intense. So I'm coming in with the straight paint, and we're just going to hit right here. It looks like there'd almost be like two folds. We'll give it a little extra pizzazz right next to that too. How about that? There we go. Looking pretty nice. Now we're going to put a little bit of a highlight right here. This is kind of on the underside where it's starting to transition into almost pure black. So we don't want to go the full length. We're just going to put a little bit of one right there. And try and kind of fade that out. So as I'm applying the highlight, I'm pulling back on the brush as I go, so it kind of tapers a little bit. That'll be about all we really want on that side. I'll come down here, do the same thing, just try and enhance those folds. You can do this your Mephiston or whatever model you may be applying this technique to. It's going to look awesome. And that leads me to a point that I may not make clear in some of these videos. If you have an Instagram or some cool models you've painted, whether you've followed my tutorials or not, if you'd like to share with the community, I'd like to take this time to recommend you throw up some Instagram links in the comments below. Share what you've been working on with all of us, and if you'd like to go one step further and be super awesome, I encourage you to pop in to our Discord community and share with everyone who hangs out with me during my Twitch live streams. It's not just a fan club, so to speak, for Justin the Arm Painter. It is really a fan club for all you miniature guys out there that want to interact with other hobbyists like yourself. That is what I'm trying to grow in the T.A.P Garrison Discord community. So hopefully we'll see some of you YouTubers, you YouTube folks. Hopefully we'll see some of you guys over there. And if you aren't currently following me on Twitch, maybe we'll see you on Discord and Twitch as well. And finally, we're just coming in and enhancing the rest of these folds with kind of a little bit of edge highlight like we've been doing before. Nothing to it but to do it, so to speak. I'm always full of like useless nonsense comments. If you guys follow me for any length of time, you're going to hear me say goofy stuff because I really, not only do I want to try and share how I paint stuff, and I will hopefully continue to improve, not only on the filming and editing side, but on the teaching side of it as well. I also want to entertain, and if you happen to ever meet me in person, maybe at Nova or Adepticon, or maybe one day at LVO if I can make it, or a convention like that, or maybe you're local to North Carolina and you happen to see me at a store or a tournament or something, I think you guys will realize that I am the same way in real life. I'm not always like Bob Rossi and super like mellow chill like I try to be on these videos where I'm a little bit more relaxed. But in terms of like my attitude and being super chill and trying to be entertaining and saying goofy stuff, I'm just like this in person. Always saying something goofy, always looking for a laugh. It's what I want. I want to entertain people. There's enough bullcrap in the world that we deal with every day, and my ultimate goal in life is to leave you feeling better than you did when I came into contact with you. We may not even know each other, but when I run into somebody who's like a cashier somewhere, some new person at a game store I run into, someone that I already know, hopefully after they've engaged with me for the brief period of time or the long period of time it might be for that session of whatever it is I'm doing, hope that I've left them feeling happy and better than they did before I walked in the room. And finally, one last thing I'm going to do with these highlights and stuff, I'm going to come in with a little bit of a glaze and try and build up here and enhance some of the grays just a little bit more. Not a lot, just a little bit more. I really want it to pop a little bit better. This one's not quite as intense as I want, so we're coming back in with a glaze here. Just trying to push that light portion of the fold a little bit better. A little bit more intense. Bring up that intensity. Come in here and feather off the side. And as you're doing something like this, you may have to manipulate the direction you hold the model. I'm trying really hard to keep it under the camera, but right now it is actually reflecting my light source back into my eyeballs. I don't know if it's happening to you guys on camera. I'm currently looking down, but it makes it a little bit hard to actually see exactly what I'm doing, because this is a slick, wet surface now because of that glaze. So as you're doing this, don't be afraid to rotate the model around and manipulate it and kind of get a better feel for exactly where your glaze and your paint is ending up. So with our gray areas now dry, it's time to come in with a little bit of an ink here to tie together all the grays and really start to push the depth here in the folds. For that, we're going to start off with some Green Stuff World wash ink, their black wash specifically. I've mixed that around 2 parts matte, or not matte, 2 parts glazed medium with 4 parts just a standard water and 6 drops of the ink wash. So it's a 2-to-1 sort of mix, but letting you know that there's a little bit of glazed medium in here as well. And what I'm doing is essentially coating the whole surface in a really thin coat, trying to bring all the gray colors back together and tie them together and kind of create a more cohesive blend. And I'm also hitting the black recesses to really make sure that those are enhanced as well. So you could skip this step if you want to, but I felt that the grays were a little bit too strong, and I really wanted to kind of tie all those layers together. So I felt that that final glaze across the top was really going to kind of bring it together and make them all look a bit better, more cohesive as it is. So we're going to do that across the whole surface of his robe here. Try and continue to bring all of these colors together. Now I am moving very quickly. I don't want this to pool up in one area and dry without the whole area getting an equal amount, so I'm moving as fast as possible, even flat brush strokes and even amounts of paint as best as I can. This is very, very translucent because it's already the the wash form of their ink, so it comes out very thin as is and very transparent. So by coming in and thinning it a little bit more, we're able to get more control over the tint that we have and really mitigate losing all of the gray work that we did. We definitely want to get that nice transition and bring it all together. It's something I've been playing with a lot over the last year, is playing with glazes and washes and things of that nature to tie colors together. I've not actually ever taken any formal painting classes. Everything that I know has been mostly self-taught. I stopped watching YouTube full-on tutorials back in like 2000 and maybe 10, 11, somewhere in there, and just started kind of like looking at a quick technique or a picture or something, and trying things, just trying something new. So it's a different thing for me. So there may be someone out there who does this technique better and knows a better way to tint things and apply things and wash things and edge highlight and blend and all that, but keep in mind that this is the way that I do it, and I'd love to hear how you guys do it if it's different than what I do. As you're doing this though, don't forget you've got this area right up here, and you've got these folds on this side as well, as subtle as those might be. So I'm going to go ahead and let that dry, and then we can move on. One quick pro tip here I'd like to share while I'm working on this model is to have a hairdryer handy. If you're trying to do detail work on a single model, you're not trying to do batch painting, you're trying to do a lot of work on one model in one sitting, nothing can be more frustrating than having to wait on paint to dry. Waiting on a shoulder pad or something small, it's not that big of a deal. But having to wait on a whole area like this where we just applied that kind of glaze ink wash thing that we applied, that could take a little bit. And if you're wanting to do more work on a model, you might want to speed up that process. So having a hairdryer here is really useful, and it helps speed up the drying process, and I highly recommend it. Doesn't have to be anything crazy. This is the El Cheapo one. I mean, it says it have name brand on it, but it works fine. Don't have to go buy some crazy hobby hairdryer. Something like this will do the job just fine. With our wash glaze now dry, the last thing we're going to do on this robe here is to come in with another ink here from Green Stuff World, Opulentus Black. Now I've thinned this down 1-to-1 with water, and for this particular step, we're going to be focusing on the actual full-on recesses of the robes here. We don't want to hit the whole area, we just want to hit the shadowed area. We're trying to bring that back and make that pop, because if the shadowed area is darker, it's going to make the lights that are next to it look lighter. So that's exactly what we're going to be doing here. And because we've got it thinned down, if we touch an area we don't want, we can just come in and try and feather that off while it's still wet. But it's also very translucent, so probably going to be okay and not have to worry about hitting an area that we don't want to get with the darkened ink look. So right here we got a little bit I didn't want. So we'll just come in with a clean paintbrush and just feather that out. There we go. And this is one of my first times really playing around with inks. Green Stuff World was kind enough to send me a whole bunch of their ink sets. I got the Ink Intensity set 1 and 2 and their ink wash set, and that allowed me to do a video review, product review video. And I actually did some really cool work with the inks they sent, and did some testing on a standard mini here, quick little recess or break on this guy. This is my Ronald McDonald Marine, and then this one was a final test with an airbrush just to get some colors, you know, and see what we could do without actually having Ronald McDonald, more practical application. So testing colors, testing a theory to see if it would work, and it worked out pretty well. So right here we're continuing to experiment a little bit with the inks. I know what I want to do, but I've always done it with standard acrylics, not actual like ink paints or ink sets. So working with something a little bit different today, and I think this is going to prove to be pretty fun. I think the technique is basically the same as what I've done before, but I'm just using a different paint or tool to get me to that result. You can see here I've come in with a clean paintbrush there and was just feathering over the edge. So we're wanting to push the shadows. We don't really want to take away from the highlights. So again, we're coming here, feather off that edge there. There we go. Come in here, get right up under his arm. Want that to be nice and dark. And then the rear folds are going to be a little bit trickier, particularly right in here. And down here, almost like pin washing, just really focusing and trying to target those recesses. I didn't want to get quite up on that gray, so just come in and feather it out, sop up some of that. And you can come in and apply this in as many layers as you want. Because we've got it and it's thin and it's translucent, you can come in and really push those shadows until we're happy with the way they look. So you can always come in and add more paint. It's hard to go in and take paint off once it's already on, so I like to kind of build up colors and get where I want to be versus trying to do it all at one time and then messing up and having to start over. So it can be a little bit more time consuming in doing this way, but I feel I get better transitions when I work a little bit harder to get there. Come in here, same thing. I'm a little less cautious or worrisome about some of these rear folds because he's going to have a backpack there, so if we kind of hit some of the grays and it darkens him up a little bit, it doesn't bother me too much because there would be a shadow being cast by his backpack, particularly up here near the piping stuff anyway, so not as big of a deal. Alright. So we're going to come in here, and on this one, we're going to try and target some areas, and remember that it's kind of got a fold here, and then it's looping under. So I want to hit this side right here. And kind of feather this right in there. Not to be too crazy. And we're going to come over here on the other side of those highlights. Come in with our ink. Again, try to move as quickly as possible so we're getting an even coat across the whole surface here. Here we go. Make sure we get up under there. And see how that really pushed the depths and pulled it all together. So we're going to come in here, apply one more application to some of these recesses, targeting those just to really push that depth. And you don't have to fill the whole area, you can really just target a spot that you really want to intensify. It's one of the beauties of inks I've found so far. I'll just add some intensity to a specific spot, kind of hand painting in shadows, so to speak. It's really cool, it's a lot of fun. Hopefully you're having fun doing this on your miniatures, or at least having fun watching me experiment, right? Cool. I think that's looking pretty cool. We'll go ahead and replicate an extra application on the back and see what we can get. And just like that, we've gone ahead and applied some of that ink into the recesses and really helped push the shadows here in the recesses. And again, by pushing it down these shadows, just like we've done here in all the recesses, we've pushed the bright sides, the top parts of the folds to the top. These are a little bit exaggerated, but I really do like those. If I had to do it over again, I might have had the underside here on this one transition into more of a dark black gray and then black here, so you get more of a gradation here. But for my first attempt of trying to do more of this stuff by hand, I think that turned out really well. And finally, the folds on the front side turned out really nicely. I'm digging how they look. And one of the reasons why I wanted to push the contrast here, or the gradation, is because I wanted the effects on his robes to mirror that we did on his cloak, rather, to mirror that we did on his robes. I didn't want to just have quick edge highlights that looked real crisp and we're done, and then didn't kind of mirror what we did here. So I wanted the effort applied to this to mirror some of what we did here. But on that note, folks, I think this is where we're going to stop today. So be on the lookout for part 4, where we'll come in here and we'll start working on Mephiston's face. And as we finish that up, we'll start to come in and work on his sword, the other details here like his gloves and the metallics and so forth. So I didn't know how many parts this was going to be and how long it was going to take to film, but that's something new for you, something new that we're trying to do. So hopefully this will break this down into smaller bite-sized pieces for you guys to consume. And as always, make sure you sign up in the comments below and let me know what you think. I'd like to thank you guys for hanging out with me during part 3 of my Paint Mephiston tutorial series, and I am sorry that these are a little bit more sporadic or spread out or lengthy, something like that, than I expected them to be. I thought we were going to finish this in 3 sessions, and now I'm not sure exactly how many it's going to be. I'm not sure exactly how long each installment is, because at the time of filming this, I haven't actually edited it yet, so we'll see how those go in post and see how they end up on the internet for you guys, how long they are. But as I was just saying, if you guys have any critiques, suggestions, thoughts, comments, make sure you sound off in the comments below. Let me know what I could do to improve. If you like the new format, if you prefer to have something longer that you can just pause and rewind, or if you like the small segments, I'd like to know your thoughts. If you happen to be working on any models of your own, perhaps you're painting your own Mephiston or using these techniques on some models of yours that are from a different army, I'd love to see your hobby progress. So if you're not a member of the T.A.P Garrison, our Discord and Facebook communities, there'll be some links in the description below, so click those, join, share your hobby goodness with us. But if you're not looking to join another Facebook or Discord community, which you should, we'd love to have you. But if you aren't, and you still want to share your hobby goodness with us, I encourage you to sign up in the comments below, share those Instagram links, and let us see what you're working on. As always, if you have not already subscribed to the channel, I encourage you to subscribe. We'd love to have you as a continued viewer. We'd love to have you back here hanging out. And if you're watching this, you've clearly made it this far, so what's it hurt? Hit that subscribe button. Hopefully you'll like this video, smash it, like it, and hopefully you'll ding the little bell so you get alerts when I put up new content, hopefully going into the summer, which right now it's January, so I'm planning on the summer what I want to be doing. Hopefully we're going to have a more ramped up schedule with things that I want to do, things for you guys to consume, things that will hopefully get you guys thinking, get the hobby juices flowing, and get you interacting with me. And if you want to continue to help support the channel, I encourage you to check out deathRayDesigns.com. That is my day job. I work there 40 hours a week currently, and Austin has been gracious enough to continue to support what I do over the years. And if you use coupon code GETAMPED10, you'll save 10%, and a portion of that will be given to me in the form of a bonus, which is great. And those funds get to help, put the roof over my head, pay for bills, and get hobby goodness, hobby tools, paints, things that I need to make these videos happen, things I need to be able to have an army to play games with. So you guys doing stuff over there helps me, helps the business, helps me keep me employed kind of sort of twice. If you're not following me on Twitch, make sure you check me out over on Twitch. I'll be painting live. You can ask questions there and let me know what you think about what I'm doing. And finally, if you'd like to be a super supporter, I encourage you to check out my Patreon page. We've got a variety of pledges for you guys on the low end to the high end. Your contributions, however large or small, do help me to continue what I'm doing. They help me to pursue this dream that I want to achieve. I want to produce hobby and gaming content for you guys, and I could not have made this video today without one of the Patreon supporters, Wheels, Chris Oakes from the Garrison, continuing to sing his praise. My #1 supporter over the years, closely followed by quite a few people from the Twitch community and Facebook community, not just people who throw money at me, but people who are always behind me trying to motivate me. So if you like the content, consider becoming a patron. But ultimately, if you really do like it and you can't maybe let go of any hobby funds, simply watching these videos, subscribing to the channel, and engaging with me is priceless as well. As always, folks, I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think. Keep rolling those dice, keep painting those models, and I'll catch you next time.